Right, let's do some hot takes.
Yes.
Now, not to steal anyone's brand, at some point I'd love to do another segment of this where we do have like chicken nuggets and hot sauce. I'm just gonna say it. I think that'd be quite funny.
I don't know a show about
Yeah, they use wings because they like bones. Fucking weirdos. But I just want to be able to throw the thing in my mouth and not worry about a bone. Is that
Ayo.
crazy? Ayo, ayo.
Pause.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I have a lot of hot takes. Horry knows this. I feel like I don't voice that many on the podcast though. I tend to
Probably
think
not.
a lot more about what I'm gonna say before coming on here. So a hot take springing to mind tends not to slip through.
I think a lot of what some people maybe would class hot takes, but I think a lot of the time they're also like very valid takes.
Oh, all of my hot takes are valid.
So, but like, I think what happens more often is we just get into heated discussions about certain companies we dislike.
Yeah.
And we go in on them, and we do less like hot takes all the time.
Yeah, we tend to go for companies rather than just members of the community because I don't think infighting helps. But sometimes just reminding people where they sit is important. I've managed to whittle it down to 3.
Okay, I have like
at one point had 7.
Jeez, I have 3, maybe a 4th, but like I was saying to you before we started recording. And maybe people will get this sense from me if those that do listen to podcasts regularly. I am very laid back about everything in life.
You're a very placid person.
Yeah,
and I mean that in a good way. You don't let yourself get worked up.
I am just chill. So like me, I don't really have that many hot takes on things. I'm just like, I feel like most of my takes are fairly valid, but maybe they are hot takes.
And I also feel like something being a hot take, you have to have a little bit of fire about it. And you just don't have a lot of fire about anything.
No, I'm quite happy with everything.
Yeah.
It's the best way to be.
Your equivalent to a hot take is that it'd be cool if they did it this way. And I feel like with a hot take, you've got to have a bit of anger about the fact it's not being done a certain way. But do you want to start us off with your one? And we'll go from there.
Start with. Ooh. I feel like I've voiced this somewhat before.
Oh, this is going to be cathartic for both of us. I can feel it.
So it's like somewhat of a hot take, but I don't think you can ever have too much of a certain genre. Ever.
Okay.
It happened. We see it a lot in films through the people going, oh, there's too many superhero films. I disagree. You can never have too many superhero films. And in gaming, it'll be like, oh, there's at the moment, it's too many hero shooters. I think the actual issue is there's too many bad versions of these genres. There is a good execution. No one cares. If we were getting endgame after endgame after endgame, no one would have a complaint about superhero films. If every hero shooter was an absolute banger, or if every BR was like Fortnite level every time, no one would have a problem with it. It's always just poor execution, not like fatigue on a genre of something. I think people just focus on, oh, there's too many of this thing. We need to stop. Can we stop making superhero films? It's like, no, the issue isn't too many of this.
And to hop on that slightly as well, if you feel like there's too much of a genre, you're not looking hard enough.
Yeah. There's plenty of everything.
Yeah, you are just genuinely not looking hard enough.
I think people that say there's too much of a genre is because there's recently been too many bad versions, like too many like games where it's just a money grab on the same genre and it's done poorly. If there was loads, like, it's too many bad ones in a row make you think there's too many of something.
I think that is a very on the pulse take. I'm going to go for one here that I think we've briefly touched on before, but I'm going to allow myself to get a bit more heated about it.
Okay.
The majority of people have no fucking idea what VFX are versus CGI, and they just lump it all in together with no thought process about what the fuck they're saying. So someone will legitimately say, oh, that VFX is horseshit. And what they mean is they mean the CGI is horseshit. And they're like, oh, why are they doing VFX when it could all be practical? Guess what? A practical effect is still a video effect.
Yes.
VFX are just creating an illusion of something. So
Yeah.
when like they say, "Oh, Christopher Nolan didn't use any VFX on Oppenheimer," yes, he did. There is not a film that didn't use any video effects, unless he actually dropped a fucking nuclear bomb. Guess what?
Yeah.
He used VFX. I'm sick of this idea of just, and we're seeing it in other stuff as well. We're going to keep it on media, but like we're seeing it a bit with AI as well. They just throw AI in all together, and there's a big distinction between like generative AI and what we would consider like video game style AI, where you have like the NPCs movements and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they are very different things, and people just lump it all in together when they don't understand it. I don't understand VFX and CGI that well. I will attest to that, but I know there's a fucking difference.
I fully agree, and this actually goes with one of my sort of hot takes is CGI has, in my opinion, although it's got more accessible to the average person to learn, it has led to it getting worse in media because you've lost the old heads that knew how to do VFX with practical stuff and were then able to apply that to CGI stuff, which made it look just as good. Unfortunately, a lot of that is, and this kind of goes in with your VFX and CGI thing. I think a lot of the times, like you say, bad VFX that people call out is actually just bad CGI, or it's CGI that it hasn't been VFXed in very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that has come through, part of it is, don't get me wrong, and we've talked about this before, studios not paying artists enough, so they're overworked.
Not enough time, not enough money.
They're having to cut corners because they're not getting paid enough and don't have enough time, for sure. And that's not their fault. But I do think there is also just it's become more accessible and cheaper and easier to do, that studios lean on it more, which means the amount of people that know actually how to do it well are diluted and haven't got that knowledge of from the practical effects times and how it's developed. You've just got people that only know how to do CGI, and there is I'm sure, and I can't do it, but I know from my knowledge of it, there is obviously certain tricks of the trade to like make things seem realistic. I think the biggest example is like you look at like Iron Man 1 and stuff, and the CGI in that, you look at it now, it looks way better than like Ant-Man Quantumania, but that should make no sense. Like we've come so far that it should be better.
Do you know what I think? I think the best way I can describe it is based on my knowledge of the two. VFX has actually not stopped improving. VFX is the best it has ever been. CGI and the utilization of it is what's a bit shaky at the minute, and that is giving VFX in general a bad name.
Yes, I would agree. I would say CGI has had huge leaps in technology, but
oh, absolutely,
the misuse and using it too much as a crutch and then forcing artists to have to cut corners means you don't actually get the peak CGI capabilities because they don't have the time or money to do it. And studios don't care for that. They just want, oh, we'll use CGI because we know it can be fixed with that, but have no concept of how long stuff would take to make it look as good as real.
Yeah. The video effects on top of the CGI model are more important than the quality of the CGI model.
Yeah.
It is that simple. Go on, what you got next for me?
Because
my next one's going to legitimately piss people off.
Okay. One that I think we both agree with, but I am very much, I don't know, kind of leans into my laid backness.
Okay.
Just because a piece of media is not perfect doesn't mean you can't still enjoy it or think that it's a great show. And on top of that, it's okay to not like something in your taste. Doesn't give you permission to tell someone they are wrong for liking something.
We have discussed this exact thing before in our private chats. And I'm going to take it to the situation we described it. We were discussing music.
Yes.
And yes. People were calling Drake the GOAT, and that was pissing me off. Because he's like, no, but he's my GOAT. And I'm like, right, but GOAT is like a title of, you think it's beyond opinion. You're like, that is the greatest of all time.
Yes.
Instead of saying they're my favourite. Someone says Drake's their favourite rapper, I'm not going to complain. I'm like, cool. That you are absolutely fine for him to be your favourite. Someone says Drake's the GOAT, that's when I'd get a bit annoyed. It's like, well, hold on just a fucking minute. You're now trying to make an opinion a fact. That's where there's a problem. You're completely right. There is very much a difference between I think this is one of the greatest shows of all time and this is one of my favourite shows of all time.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, they can be the same thing. But there are also, I know, dog shit shows that I love. Family Guy is not one of the great shows of all time. It's one of my favourite though.
Look, for like keeping on this week's like Rings of Power. I actually thought season 1 of Rings of Power overall was great. There is plenty of people that were like, this was terrible. And it's like, I'm not saying it was like the greatest of all time. My personal opinion, I enjoyed it enough. I thought it was a great show. Yes, it had its wrong things in places. I can look past that. Doesn't mean those negatives don't make it a terrible show overall. But then you get obviously people are like, oh, I dislike this thing. And I think this is part and part with like social media has become an issue for media. Of people think their voice matters too much on social media.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're like, oh, my
Says the guy on
opinion's
the podcast.
Yeah. But like that's the thing, like
yeah, no.
People get too on like their high horse of like, no, I didn't like this, you're not allowed to like this.
Yes. Yeah.
Go on,
I think it's one of these things where you've got to let everyone like what they want to like. You do not have to let everyone dislike what. And that doesn't mean you can't dislike something, but stop shouting about things you dislike. It's fucking weird.
Also,
why are you letting your entire life be affected by something you didn't like? Just go and watch the thing you loved again. What are we doing?
As someone who is very laid back, it's a lot more fun if you just enjoy everything and don't hate things. Life's
it's
so much
it's
nicer.
absolutely fine. Like obviously the hot button one at the minute is Acolyte. It's absolutely fine if you didn't like the Acolyte. Yeah. Stop screaming and telling other people they have to hate it. It's boring. It's exhausting. And even if you had valid criticisms, it becomes a lot more difficult to have an honest discussion about them valid criticisms when you're just screaming at people for liking something. It's crazy. Yeah. Now I'm going to scream at people for liking.
I was going to say, right, what's your real hot take here then?
Yeah. MCU Iron Man is a horrible fucking adaptation that's boring as shit. And he only got popular because they stripped away Tony Stark's less desirable personality traits that make him more interesting, so he just became a super rich, cool, smart dude.
I can't disagree with the second half of that.
Tony Stark is a fucking arsehole who no one likes for a reason. There is a reason Iron Man was not popular before the MCU. And what they've done is they've gone, here is Tony Stark in the comics is shit, but he's not shit in like that's a bad character, shit in like he's a shit, which makes him a well-rounded character. And what they did to make him more marketable, because they didn't have the licenses for any of their big characters, was they stripped away the shit that people will dislike about the character, so that he just becomes a guy with a really cool bit of technology, who's super rich, who has attractive women throwing themselves at him, and he has no drawbacks. They try to recover a little bit of that later on, but by that point, RDJ and Tony Stark were so popular that you've still got people defending his actions in Civil War. It is, at its core, a horrible fucking adaptation, and with the way people act about characters now, that Iron Man adaptation would fall flat on its fucking face.
I would agree that, which is like a two-way thing of like people that are annoyed about comic book changes nowadays and get so high rate about it. Where were you when the MCU started? Because you weren't shouting and bawling then. But like 100% they like when you look at it as like an actual true to comic adaptation, the MCU Tony Stark is so far from what he actually should be as a character. And like, don't get me wrong, I fully understand why they did it and for marketing, and you could probably argue that yes, it was the right decision because it's led to the MCU. But for like a purist point of view, yeah, it's like the worst adaptation ever. I can see that. I can definitely see some people are going to be upset with you about that.
Oh yeah. I'm ready for people to come at me. Let me be fucking clear. I love the first Iron Man film, and I love the second Iron Man film, and the third one, and everything Iron Man's been in. And like, I clearly adore the MCU, but it is actually a dogshit characterization that's barely even Iron Man. Then my next one's gonna piss off a whole other group of people. It's great.
Well, continue. I have one that's gonna shifting the focus to gaming more.
Okay, cool.
So I think Blizzard would have been, or could have been today, a award-winning studio had it not been for the monetization of FOMO and the use of microtransactions that has taken over gaming. Blizzard
Okay.
was one of the greatest studios before monetization started ruining their games and they started making so much money that then it became their crutch of their games and the downfall of their studio. I also think, part and part with this, I think Fortnite was the worst thing to happen to gaming.
Ooh.
Both for for devs, for players, and for esports. I think
Okay.
it's ruined
So
a lot of things. And
So
to expand on that before people go, oh,
yeah.
it's ruined things for devs because now there's an expectation on all devs that they have to do live service games and update them every week and be on top of everything, which is not possible unless you own the engine your game is made in, which is what Fortnite had. It's impossible for a normal dev when they don't have the devs of the engine where they can go, oh, this thing doesn't work, can you fix this? And they go, yeah, we fixed the engine, now you can fix your game. It's set unrealistic expectations on devs. It's ruined things for players because it's led into the increased FOMO monetization with battle passes and limited time skins and all of this that Fortnite has done. They also ruined esports because they turned around and were like, oh, we're putting 100 million into esports. And suddenly after that, you got crazy investment that then inflated wages, has inflated prize pools, that has then made it unsustainable for esports orgs, which has then essentially killing esports from the inside out.
Okay. So I think for a large part I agree with you. There are a couple of reasons I disagree though, slightly.
Okay.
Because I also think Fortnite did a fuck ton of good for gaming. And it is very much a balancing act between the good and bad.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't think it's the worst thing to happen. I think if you just look at the good it did, you could argue it was the best thing to happen to gaming. If you just look at the bad, it's the worst thing.
Yeah.
And in reality, I think it ends up being in the middle because it did a lot on both sides. So first off, I don't think the speed of the updates and the expectations that's set can actually be blamed on Fortnite. That once again needs to be blamed on the rich CEO fucks and the people who don't make anything but make decisions.
Yes,
I think that's like blaming someone running a world record, 100 meters, for other people now trying to run faster. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, I get that. That
So like
sort of
that, I
shifts
don't
on
think
the
you can blame on.
players.
Yeah, I don't think you can blame Fortnite for that because they were just doing the
No.
best they could do, and it changed expectations. But that wasn't their goal. Their goal was just we're going to do the best we can do.
True.
Monetization, I completely agree. You know my opinions on battle passes. They suck ass. What I am enjoying and what I'm finally glad to see is happening because I like battle passes as a concept. My issue has always been you buy it and if you don't finish it, you've wasted money. I like what Halo are doing, where you can buy a battle pass and 6 years later, providing the game's still online, but like what the game's been out for 2.5 years now, you can go back if you bought the first battle pass and didn't finish it. You can go back and finish that right now. That I think should be a legal requirement.
Yeah, and Helldivers has also done that with their pass.
Helldivers has also done that. X Defiant, I said I was worried about what happens after the season if you don't unlock the guns. They've said guns at the end of the season will go into the challenges tab.
Yeah, I mean,
so that resolves an issue. So all you're missing out on is the cosmetics, which again is better. But I do agree for a large part that the FOMOization with the battle pass system has been for the worst. The rotating item store I don't think is a bad thing. I don't think it's a good or a bad thing. I think it's just a thing.
Like microtransactions is tough because I think it's also led to game studios feeling like they have to do a live service game now.
Yes.
which then they go on. It's set up this monetization model that unfortunately made a lot of money for studios. That now, again, it's not devs necessarily always in the issue here. It's execs above devs that then are like, oh no, you need to do this model on your game because this makes us money.
And for esports, once again, I don't think we can blame Fortnite here, because they weren't doing it with ulterior motives. They were kind of going, we want to support our esports community, and then a bunch of people with a lot of money went, wait, that's a successful business. They're investing in this. I'm going to invest in this too. Once again, it's rich fucks who don't add anything trying to jump in on something that caused the problem. So I don't want to blame Fortnite directly for that.
Yes,
because that wasn't their goal. I don't think their goal was to cause other games to get overinflated.
I don't think it was their goal, but I do think with esports they kind of just acted without any thought to the outcome. Because like the main thing with that is that they went from esports was growing, but it was whatever, and then they just went, oh yeah, we're putting 100 million into esports. We don't actually know how we're doing that yet. They just chucked a huge fucking amount of money with like no thought process to like how it would roll on.
Yeah.
And then you had kids like I'm pretty sure, I don't know what the player's name is, but there was someone who won that first like open weekend online and never played competitively again because he won like $250,000. And it's like they just kind of unintentionally inflated everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a bit on them for kind of just being like, blah.
Yeah.
But I get it's not directly there.
But on the flip side of the like categorical good stuff they've done, before them, Xbox and Sony representatives were on the record as saying they would never allow people to play cross-platform. Fortnite literally managed to convince Xbox and PlayStation to go, let players play together. That is one of the greatest things that's ever happened in gaming.
I won't disagree with that. Crossplay becoming
we both
the norm.
grew up in an era where you had to talk to your friends with the new console release to work out what console you were getting if you wanted to play together.
True.
Now, for the majority of games, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. And on the flip side, again, it created issues in other areas, but they also created a lower entry cost for new players with the amount of high quality free to play games that are now available.
Yeah, their monetization.
Because you never have to spend a penny on Fortnite. You never have to spend a penny on Rocket League. You never have to spend a penny on Fall Guys, and that's 3 styles of games that are quite different and give you a lot of stuff.
I can agree on the fact that the Battle Pass microtransaction monetary system has led to a easier barrier of entry for a lot of players because it's now allowed game studios to be like, oh, we're free to play, and then they make their money else.
If you were to ban that FOMOization of it, I think the benefits of the monetary system allowing so many free-to-play games would be really good.
Here's my thing with that, though. That was going on long before Fortnite.
There wasn't as many high-quality free-to-play games.
There wasn't, because my brain goes to, obviously, it was a lot in I think what Fortnite did was it forced it onto consoles because you already had a lot of PC games like League, which were all just cosmetic, and they made we know Riot's made plenty of money from League, and that is free to play and just cosmetics. I think I will agree that like Fortnite helped push that onto console. Fortnite,
because do you know what the biggest
all of gaming?
Yeah. Do you know what the biggest thing with like their style is? And I have a great example for it. Rainbow Six Siege by Ubisoft was a £40 game at release.
Yeah, I know. I paid it.
X Defiant, which is their newest game, which is a very similar style, free to play. That's what I mean by it's lowered the floor to entry. Yeah, because they're trying to do the exact same thing with X Defiant that they've done with Rainbow Six. That, like, in their head, these games are going to do the exact same thing. They're going to grow in the same way, and they're going to support it in the same way. But they've cut off that £40 entry point. But yeah, that's why overall I think Fortnite sits somewhere in the middle.
I think it is mixed.
It's had a large impact, and some of it good, some of it bad.
Yeah.
Right, are we ready for me to anger a whole different side of the internet?
Okay.
This is the side of the internet I will fist fight, so I don't mind it too much. Comic book shows and films should be loud and camp and gay and woke because that is inherently what comic books are. It's muscular dudes traditionally in tight clothes punching each other. That's pretty fucking gay.
Totally agree.
I scream this every time I get the chance. Yeah, I want bright, loud costumes.
And we're so hopeful that DC does this. But yeah,
Yes.
like the people that complain that why are comic book films being made woke? It's just, are you just blind? Like, you are clearly someone that didn't read comics or pay attention to what you were reading in comics.
Like, comics are so inherently crazily woke. I just don't understand what you're talking about. And I don't understand how so many people who claim to love comic books misunderstand the point. I know we talk about it a lot about like reading comprehension has never been lower and shit like that. But people continually missing the point. It's crazy. The biggest one most recently has been people going, oh, Deadpool and Wolverine did so well because it wasn't woke.
No.
I'm not sure if you've seen this discussion, but I saw this discussion, then rewatched the scene in question, and I got what people meant. The Honda Odyssey fight scene.
Yeah.
That is a gay sex scene. when you go back and watch it, and the way they kind of interact, very horny.
Oh,
like they're chuckling a lot. They're like going like that. At one point, Wade is literally with his leg up on the dash like that, and he's like, I can fuck hard, or you're not fucking hard enough." Is like literally the words that leave his mouth.
Oh,
it's like, yeah, it's not explicit sex, but that is a sex scene.
Yeah.
There isn't just hatred in there. There's a little of something else, and obviously they're both piercing each other a lot. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's
Deadpool's like, to say Deadpool's not woke.
The guy is canonically pansexual.
Yeah,
like, come on. In the comics, he wants to die so that he can fuck death.
Do you know what I think it is? People that obviously don't read, comes back to media literacy, but like with the Deadpool film, he makes jokes about like Disney being woke and stuff in that film, and like he jokes about it through the fourth wall. That people then go, oh, this is because this is because Deadpool's not woke. He's making fun of them, and he's poking fun at himself while also knowingly doing that.
Yeah. And it like the flip side of that was people on the other side who are not anti-woke were like, oh, why are they making the joke that he's gay in like all the posters that they did? It's like, why is gay funny? It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is, it's like an unrequited love. Deadpool wants to fuck Wolverine. Wolverine does not want to fuck Deadpool.
Yeah,
like that's the
that
joke.
whole friendship.
It's not gay is funny. It's Deadpool's unrequited love is funny. It's Beauty and the Beast. They're both ugly, hairy monsters, but Deadpool's going to be Belle because he's in like this fundamental misunderstanding constantly drives me up the wall.
It's fair.
There we go. I've pissed off everyone.
I have one slight one that I'm like, I kind of didn't know how to express it, but I guess in simple terms it would be, I actually think D&D, it's like D&D creates better stories than most film and TV nowadays, and D&D DMs or tabletop RPG DMs, I actually think a lot of them are better writers than current, like in the realm of fantasy, are better fantasy writers than most TV writers.
I completely agree. D&D does create better stories, and it's because it instinctively has the human element. It's what I was talking to you about when I first watched Vox Machina. Yes. I was like, the reason this story is so much more compelling is me, undiagnosed, I'm going to say that at the top, ADHD, autistic as fuck, my pattern recognition is off the fucking roof. Therefore, when I'm watching a show similar to something I've seen before, I work out what the twist is going to be. It stops it being exciting, it stops it being different, because guess what? I know the tropes that aren't even tropes yet. I get it. When it's from a D&D campaign, the human element is a lot less predictable, and it's in a safe environment where people can get fucking crazy, which means they try and do dumb shit, which inherently creates a different environment. The only caveat I would have to that is only the very best DMs are better than the professional writers. There is a big, no offense to your DM, no offense to you as a DM, I don't think the story you guys tell is better than what a Hollywood writer is going to write. But I
No.
do think the stories that Brennan Lee Mulligan,
Yes,
Matt
that's
Mercer,
kind of where my
and that tier come up with, absolutely it is, because they're working with natural storytellers as well, and this creates a motif that is unbeatable.
there is definitely some random DM in his
Oh,
with
absolutely.
his high school mates, and he is telling the most incredibly written story ever, and no one outside of that group of like 5 people will ever know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it came from because we watched so much of Brennan and Matt, and I'm like, these stories would be like, if you took, say, like Fantasy High, made that as a TV, like a animated or live action like TV or film, didn't mention that it was D&D, people would be like, holy shit, this is such a good fucking show. But I feel like if you said it was a D&D, people are like, oh, that weird nerdy tabletop thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't know how many of them I've ever said on the podcast. I know I've said a lot to you. You know, I have a million fun things I'd love to do if I ever get rich. I would spunk the money so fast because of all these fun ideas. Another fun thing would be literally found an animation studio and just go up buying TV rights for like D20 animated shows, Critical Role. Like, just partner with them. Like, whatever you guys make, we will animate it. We will animate Fantasy High. We will do Never Stop Blowing Up. We will animate it. We will work with you guys. You guys will all get... Everyone who worked on it will get the same credit they got for the tabletop show in our show. And then, obviously, we'll get our credits. And we'll just keep doing it. And then, if at any point we need to, like, start our own streaming platform, we'll just, like, partner up with you to put it on not Dimension 20, on, like, Dropout a week later, and like they want to watch it on Netflix, they can, and everyone who's already got Dropout gets it as well. Like, that would be such a fun thing to do if I had money. Make me a billionaire world. I will be the only one you like, I promise. Granted, all of the money will be gone in about 6 days because I'll have all this stuff going, but yeah. I maintain it'd be so good. Them stories are so compelling in the most visceral way. Like Fantasy High as a TV show, them 3 seasons would be phenomenal. So good. And to be fair, it'd probably be more than 3 seasons because you've got
have to spread it out.
2-hour sessions and normally like 18 episodes a season.
Oh yeah, it's
36 hours. You're probably looking at 2, maybe 3 seasons of TV per season. So you're maybe looking at 9 seasons of an animated show to cover the 3 Fantasy High seasons.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible. But yeah, that's our hot takes this week. Comment down below what the best take was and what the worst take was,